Good morning. Welcome to the Wayward Widow. It's early. I think it's like 8 o'clock. Well, I guess that's not too early. Let's do the card right off the bat. Anita M. Scott says, all your power resides in the now. Mindfulness is the best tool to tap you into that power. And mindfulness is different than meditation. Zen is meditation. Mindfulness is just being constantly aware of what you're doing, like all the time. So when you're eating a meal, that you're focused on eating that meal and you're in that moment. Where meditation is, you get in there and you just drift into. You'll know it when you know it if you know it. Is that what they say? Okay, so what's the action? Having trouble being present? Tune into your five senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you feel? So I did this before. What do I see? I see everything in my room. What do I hear? The same thing as before. I hear the tinnitus in my ears. What do I smell? The lotion that I just put on my hands. It smells like suntan lotion. What do you taste? Toothpaste. What do I feel? Well, the bed underneath me is one thing, but emotionally, I feel tired. I feel a little scared. I feel a little nervous, a little lost, a lot lonely. Yeah. My second glass of ice water since I got up, and I had my green tea. So I dropped 2 pounds. I went from 98.8 to 96.8, and that's because I cut out the junk over the last couple days. I cut out the junk, and I'm going off fruits and veggies and chicken. So in that couple days, I dropped down 2 pounds to 96.8. I prefer to be around 93. That's my comfort level. I'm tiny. I've always been tiny. There was a couple comments, and it's a beautiful day here. It's sunny and all that. Someone commented, and thank you for the comments. Thank you. Someone commented on one of the videos and said, kind words, nice words, heal the listener. And absolutely, I'm a listener to all your comments, and you're a listener to all my words. So it's, as a communicator, I'm sending out things to people. So I'm sending the person that grabs up what I'm sending, you communicate back, I grab that up, and that's what makes the world go round. And it either goes round nicely or not. So we have a lot of responsibility as humans that can spew out words. We have a lot of responsibility. And you're right. So I'm having a rough morning. I am all dressed, ready, done, lotioned, powdered. I think the only thing I didn't do was my cherry blossom. Got my Stacy bracelet. And I have a 11 o'clock Zoom. Somebody commented on the ashes, my cat's ashes, Moonshadow. Moonshadow was a rescue. We rescued each other from the Animal Rescue League locally. She was there for 6 months, and she was the next cat to be put down. She was a beauty, and so kind, and so gentle, and so loving. That cat, it was like that cat waited for me. I swear to God. I'll tell the story real quick because I want to answer a couple comments. We went to the Animal Rescue League. We, meaning myself and my former husband, the father of my youngest son, who's now 25. But this was years back because I had Moonshadow for 10 years and she's been gone for about 3 to 4 years. So we're talking, 14 years ago or so. And Let me get comfy. I have my fringe vest on. My cheapy little fringe vest from Temu. Got this from Temu. So my son wanted a cat. There's the story. My son wanted a cat. We went to the league to get a cat that was going to spend half time at each house. And my son, we went in there, and my son fell in love with a kitten. He ended up picking the kitten. He named her Cece. And I was just looking around, and they have the cat, like this big cage area where you can go in and you could sit with the cats. And there's cement steps, and then there's a big window. And so I went in, and I sat on the lowest step. And there was a cat that was up at the top step looking out the window. That cat was sitting like the Buddha. That cat was like that perfect profile of a cat that you see. And the way the sun was coming in and hitting her fur, it was like her fur was like this beautiful pink rainbow type fur. And I had looked at her tag, and I saw that she was a rescue. They knew nothing of her other than she was fixed and she was female, and they guessed her to be at that time between 2 and 3 years old, but they weren't sure. My vet did say at least 2 because of her teeth. She had her, not her baby teeth, her regular teeth, her grown-up teeth. And anyway, I just kept looking back at her, and she was stock still. And then after a few moments, I sensed movement, and I looked around just a little bit, and she had come down 1 step, and I just stayed really still looking forward. And she came down another step, and again, I could just sense. And the next thing I know, she's sitting right next to me, looking straight ahead in that Buddha pose, just staring straight ahead. And so the volunteer was there, and I said, "Can you tell me anything you know about this cat?" And she said she was running along the side of the road that leads to the Animal Rescue League, like somebody dumped her or whatever. One of the workers was coming into work and stopped and picked her up and brought her in. And she's been there 6 months, and she gets along with all the cats. She's litter trained. She's so gentle, but she just wouldn't connect with anyone. And she would be the next cat to be euthanized because they needed the space. And they said, she eats wet food and dry food. No problems with her. No fighting, nothing. So I'm just like kind of scratching my head and as to why this cat is still here. And I look over, and the cat had inched her way over against me, like right up against me. And the two of us are just staring straight ahead. And then I look over, and at the same time I look over, she looks over at me. And we're just staring at each other. And she was just like, it was like, "What took you so long to come get me?" That was it. She came home with me. I named her Moon Shadow for the Cat Stevens song. I'm being followed by a moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow. I had her for 10 years. She was my baby. She loved treats, cat treats. And she would come up to my chest, and she would kind of go, pat, pat. She would tap me with her paw. Like, "Hello, Mom. Do I get a treat? Do I get a treat?" And then I would give her a treat. I'd say, "That's it, just one." She'd back up a little bit, and she'd kind of look, and I would be reading. And she would sneak up, and she'd be like right here, and she'd go, pat, pat, pat on my face. Like, "Mom, Mom, 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 Mom." And I'd give her another treat. And then when Sky would come home, like when Sky would text that he was leaving his work, that cat knew that text. And she would sit at the top of the steps, and she would just sit there and wait. until he drove home, and I would say, Daddy's on his way home. Daddy's on his way home. And she just sat there. And then he came in the door, and she just looked at him, and the love she had for that man. And he'd come up and he'd scratch her, and he'd say, how's my girl? And when he would sit down, she would do the same thing every time. She would jump up on his lap. She would turn around. She would flop up against his chest, like sideways. And then within 1 second, she would look up at him like, is this okay? Can I be here? And then he would pet her and he would say, you can be here. Every single time that happened. Because she would jump up and I would say, watch, she's going to look up at you. And she would look up at him. Man, we love that girl. She got cancer. And she pretty much died here. We did take her to the Rescue League, and they did give her the final shot. She was so sick. Like, if I had waited another hour, she would have just passed here. But we had her cremated, and they sent this little bit of ashes. She was so thin at the point of her death, and this little bit of ashes. And she loved this one plant that was not poisonous to a cat. So she would go for this one plant, and especially towards the end when she was sick. And she would eat at the plant. And I had talked to the vet about all this, and, she wasn't feeling well, and there was nothing they could do to save her. And because she loved the plant so much, I made the decision, because I'm making a lot of decisions right now, to sprinkle her ashes on the plants that I have. And right now I have all philodendron, pretty much all philodendron. And then I have two other plants that, one is like a palm, and then one, I'm not sure what it's called. But I sprinkled her ashes in the plants, in the soil, where I felt she was most at home. So that's my moon shadow story. Let me get to a couple of comments and questions and things, just a few, and then I'm going to go get, I think I'm going to get a, what's it called? Where you put the milk in the Carnation Instant. I'm going to get a Carnation Instant. I have almond milk. I don't have the almond beverage that Walmart sells. I have the almond milk. At least I think that's what it is. Almond Breeze, is that almond milk? Someone asked me if I would talk about cremation versus burial. And yes, I will right now. Pretty much everyone, almost everyone that I knew of that died in my family. I'm talking my aunts, uncles, grandparents, my niece, people that died years and years ago, were buried. That's pretty much what everybody did. And I don't know if it was because people could afford a burial at that point. I'm guessing now. A lot of this is, people just got buried. That was how it was done. Time goes on. Burial costs can be through the roof. And cremation is becoming more mainstream. Cremation is more affordable. And more, I don't want to use the word acceptable, but you go through a lot when there's a death, and more people are choosing cremation. I think due to cost. I'm not sure. Again, I'm guessing, don't come at me. My father was cremated. We talked with him about pre-plan, prepay, what he wanted, and he chose cremation. My son interned at a funeral home, and he said it was like, now this was years back, he said it was like a 60% burial, 40% cremation at that point. And this was a number of years ago. My son then, I think he was like 17, 18-ish. And so my father chose cremation. My brother-in-law was cremated. That was a decision that they made prior to his death with communication. And you can have a viewing of the body. Like you can have a viewing, and then the body can be cremated afterwards. So you can go through that. You can get a casket from the funeral home where they will use for the viewing, and then you can still do the cremation. So it's like a rental, it goes in with a package. And I had a family member do that, where there was a viewing and then a cremation. I have every reason to believe my mother was cremated. I don't know because I wasn't there. That's a whole different story. But I would say, given the situation, I would be 99% sure my mother was cremated. And she was just about 98 when she passed. And I know that there was a lot of talk in the family about, that we talked about cremation versus burial. And so I think a lot of people are choosing cremation now due to cost. For Sky did not want a traditional burial. He said it to me. I don't want to be buried like the rest of my family. He has it in his notes on his iPad. Like, don't bury me like the rest of the family. He didn't want the whole church funeral. None of that. That was not Sky. No. Sky wanted, I said this before, Sky wanted his body taken up in the woods and left there. He didn't want embalming. He said, drag me up in the woods. And he was so serious. Drag me up in the woods and let the animals have at me. And let me go back to nature the way I'm supposed to go back to nature. And we all end up going back to nature one way or another. We talked about a green burial, which they don't have here in our state. I would have needed to get his body to Tennessee for a green burial. And that would be quite costly. And so he decided on cremation. And he was very definite as to where he wanted a little bit of his ashes to be, which was in Tennessee, and that was done. And so his cremation was $2,995. That was the whole package. That was with the death certificates, which were $20 a piece, and we had 5 of those, plus 5 copies. His thumbprints, his a paper with like all of his information on it, bookmarks. He chose not to have an obituary in the newspaper, which would have been a couple $100. And I mean, his family, one son is in Tennessee, one son is in California, one son is in Texas, and his brother and sister are in Tennessee. So they would not have gotten the local paper anyway. I would have needed to get extra copies and then ship those papers out to those people, anybody who would want one. So we were given 15 bookmarks that are laminated, and an obituary or the story of Sky's life is printed on those bookmarks. And I gave a couple of them to his kids and sent them down to his brother and sister, so that they have them. And very nicely done. I was happy with them. Absolutely. They just they couldn't have nailed Sky any better. Like they took his loves and interests, and they were perfect. So For Sky, it was because he couldn't be drug in the woods. We went cremation. My father chose cremation due to cost, and he said, what difference does it make? Let's just go that route. And I think that's maybe is why more people are choosing cremation. But I also know that a couple of my older friends are choosing a burial. Everyone in their family chose burial. And so back in the day, a lot of people bought like a lot of plots. My one friend owns 8 plots. The family owns 8 plots. My other friend, he owns 6 plots. Like, you buy them en masse. I don't even know if that can be done these days. I'm not sure. But because they were bought years ago in the family for, husband, wife, grandparents, brother, sister, whatever have you, there's a lot of plots. So my one friend, he will have his body, his late wife's body is there, and then his current partner will be there. So they will all be buried. I said, are they going to get along? I was kidding, of course, but, So I think cremation I think people are looking at cremation, due to cost. And that's a guess. I can say that's why a lot of people that I know have chose cremation. And Sky chose it because, like I said, he didn't want to be buried like the rest of his family. He didn't want the whole thing. He's just like, let me get back to nature as quickly as possible. So that's why I've taken some of Sky's ashes and I've sent some to his kids and then down to his brother and sister because they put them in the creek that he wanted to be in. They did that for me because they're in Tennessee. His son in California has a special spot where he put them. His other son had a special spot where he put them. I know of the couple places here that Sky really enjoyed going to. So I put some there, just a part of him because of a part of what he loved. So a little bit is in this necklace that I wear around my neck to keep a piece of him with me. And then the bulk of the ashes will go into the lake because that's the closest to me, nature-wise, that I can get for him to get him settled. So I hope that answers your question. It's choice, and this is where communication comes in. Talk it out. Sit down with the family. Talk it out. What does everybody want? What does everybody want? Sky was an organ donor, but Sky's disease would not have allowed any of the organs to be harvested. So I'm an organ donor, and it's on my license. It was on Sky's license, and I'm choosing cremation. And I don't know. I guess if I outlive my son Kenny, I don't know who will spread my ashes. I have a will set up, and it's my oldest daughter that's in charge of the will. So at this point, so I know that she will do her best to, follow all my wishes. And Kenny isn't at a point of talking about his future. So at some point he will, though, because he's very practical in a lot of ways. I'm going to wrap this up, but I want to just mention, because it's 24 minutes, I don't answer every single comment, but I do read every single comment, and I heart and like every single comment. And usually I'll take one and I'll pin it, depending on what that person has said, I will pin it. And sometimes I'll change out the pins and I'll pin maybe 2 or 3 times because of what someone has said. I want to bring it to the top so that other people can learn from this person. whatever they've gone through, whatever they're saying. But someone commented and said, you said about getting rid of, if it were you, you would get rid of Sky's medical equipment. And that's what was the first thing that you did. And I'm sure that a lot of people have done that. I got rid of the hospital bed like ASAP. They couldn't pick it up the day after he died, but they picked it up the day after that because I could not look at that hospital bed. I couldn't. The walking sticks I keep in my room. I mean, there's one there in that corner, and there's one right there. The medical equipment, the walker, the rollator, and the wheelchair, they actually bring comfort to me. If I didn't have these devices for Sky, he would have been much more limited. So when I see them, I don't look at them as a sadness. I actually look at them as, thank goodness we had these. Thank goodness we could afford to buy these things then, because it enabled him to get around. It enabled him to get out of the house. It enabled him to get in stores. So I look at those things as a plus. The hospital bed, no, he died in that bed. That needed to get out of here. But the rollator was over $200. The walker was $50 or $60 till I ended up getting the extra wheels. The wheelchair was $130. These are expensive things, and I don't know if Kenny's going to need them. I don't know if I'm going to need them. So I'm holding on to them in case somebody else needs them here in the family, because I can't afford to go out and buy them again. So if I get rid of all of them, and then my son needs the rollator, or I need the walker, or I need the wheelchair, I'm out of luck. So that's why I don't get rid of those things. And I don't open the closet door and immediately think of Sky in a painful way. I open those doors and I'm like, thank goodness we had these things. It's the same thing with the draw sheet. Thank goodness. I'm thanking God that these kind of things were created, because it helped me to have Sky comfortable. And that's how I look at these things. They were a comfort to him. Other things like his medicines and all that, they went. The bedside commode, that went. There were things that went that just did not need to be kept. But when I open these drawers over here for this stand right here that I have, all of the preciousness of Sky are in those drawers. His clothes in the closet. That's a connection that him and I had. He owned one suit. I bought him a suit, and we went to dinner one night, and he put this suit on, and man, he was hot. He was a hot man. He was like, he had it all going on. I'm thinking these Tennessee boys, I said it before, Tennessee boys were put together. His brother looks just like Sky. They could be like identical twins. But when I met Sky, his hair was down to his waist, thinning, but down to his waist, shock white hair with the beard and the mustache and a little earring. And he was seriously built. He was a looker, and those blue eyes, like, that was it for me. I fell hard and fast for this man, and his intellect and his Buddhism and the way he looked at the world and nature and his love of animals. It was a perfect fit. So I understand what you're saying, and you commented and you said that you hoped I didn't take offense to what I was saying about divorce and death. I'm not understanding that. I mean, I'm seriously, if you help me out with this, because what I was saying was I went through divorces and they were painful. People hurt me, I hurt people, depending on the divorce. So it was rough. But watching this man die, this was the only time with someone that I loved that died, and I was right in the mix. And that was so painful for me. I wanted to save him every minute of his death, So you said in your comment that I answered everybody's comments but yours. I did answer your comment. Like as soon as I saw it, I answered it right away as to why I wasn't getting rid of that equipment. So I answered the comment and then I answered it again. I've answered it at least twice. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I take no offense to anything that you've said. And you said you were a nurse. Thank you for doing that. Nurses are amazing. I worked with the most amazing nurses in SICU. I was a certified nurse aide for 14 years, a patient care assistant for 14 years in one of the hardest units. And without our nurses, nurses run the world. So God bless you for being a nurse. And I'm so sorry for what you saw, what happened, the trauma that you experienced. I am so sorry for that. But I did answer your comment. I did. And I take no offense to whatever it was that, so I'm not sure. I'm confused. And I said that in a comment also, like, if you can explain it to me so that I can figure out what we're talking about here. I'm going to go. I'm at 31 minutes. This is long. You guys, totally, look at the hair growing in. Look, it's actually doing something. Tomorrow is 19 weeks since I lost my guy. For the person who left the very long comment, thank you so much for that. There's a special glow to you. I'm not, Sky's death is new and raw, and I'm in the beginning stages of all that part. I understand that I get. We tend to put timelines on from the date of death until we meet someone new. It's too soon, it's too long. If you meet somebody too soon, why so soon? If it's too long, it's like, why haven't you met someone? I don't know what the middle point is, the middle ground. But factor in how long he was sick, years. And I'm not talking just this illness, I'm talking all the way back from 2015. He was sick often. He had surgeries, he had his esophagus stretched twice, he had hospitalizations, he almost died twice before he actually died. So like from 2015 on, there was struggles with his health. So I'm actually 9 years into saying goodbye to Sky. And then in my 5th month of him actually being gone. So we're talking a very long time that I've pretty much been on my own, or nursing Sky, being his caregiver. So I don't think it's too soon for me, but I'm moving very slowly. I'm not on any dating apps. I haven't met anyone. No one has approached me. There's no anything. It's just me here in the apartment without my car, which is getting to be a real pain in the butt. But anyway, decision I had to make. So I'm doing a lot of praying about this. And I know that God is hearing me. And when it's right, it will happen. I'm not pushing anything. I'm not, it's like, oh my God, it's got to be tomorrow. No, it could be a year from now. It could be 2 years from now. It could be never. I was just watching Tom Mills. He did a live, and he was with this woman for 3.5 years, and apparently she wasn't being honest with him. And so he did a live, and he's heartbroken. His wife's been gone 5 years next month. And it came out to be like a whole thing. And he said something interesting. He said, I'm now 47. And he said, my time is up. Like, I'm never going to meet anybody. At 47, he's thinking that. Like, that's crazy. I'm almost 65. Next month, I turn 65. I don't want to think that there isn't anyone out there for me because I'm 65. I want to think that there's somebody that's like around 70 that is out there for me. I keep thinking 72. He's going to be 72. I don't know why I'm thinking that. But I found it interesting that this gentleman said, I'm 47 and I've lost 3 years of my life dating this woman who had, who was not going to be with me. It was a long distance thing apparently, but I just found that interesting. So I'm not rushing anything. It's in God's hands. It seriously is in God's hands. And he has a plan for me. And when it's to happen, it will happen. And in the meantime, I'm just cleaning my apartment, keeping tabs on my son. I did speak with him this morning. He said he feels like he got hit by a truck. He had fluid taken out of his heart, the lining of the heart yesterday, and he had his second shot in his belly. That shot to slow down his Sjogren's. He's going to get a shot every 4 months. So he said he feels like he got hit by a truck. And so my priority right now is my 11 o'clock Zoom with my girl. And I'm super excited about that because we have something planned. And hopefully I'll be able to talk about all that. But it's just, it's exciting for me because I need her talents. Like she's talented and she's going to help me with something. So I'm grateful. So I'm going to go. Holy mackerel. I don't know who's going to stay this long, but anyway, I'm going to go. You guys take care. Thank you for choosing me. Thanks for choosing the channel. Thank you for your kind words. Take care of yourself. Put the oxygen mask on you. Know that pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. I'm still working with that one. And say a prayer for my old friend. He has a doctor appointment tomorrow. Hopefully the doctor's going to be able to help him with all the pain he's in so that he can actually go on his vacation that he has scheduled later on this month to go see his family down south. So that's my hope. And he is a God-fearing, God-led man. And he's 83. And I just would like to see him get a chance to see his family again. So you guys take care.